Hi, I'm Rick Rose with Aviation Oil Outlet.com. Today, we are at the historic Wyoming Valley Airport to talk about this beautiful collection of airplanes and the oil that goes into them. But first, I'd like to introduce our guest. From Phillips 66 Lubricants, Tony Negri and Paul Swanson. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
And of course, good friend of ours, retired United States Air Force Lieutenant Colonel John Baum, call sign Slick. Now, John, could you tell me what oil goes into all these aircraft? And you're not allowed to say smoke oil, because I know that's where you're going to go.
Well, putting me on the spot, of course, Rick, owning a couple airplanes, it's probably one of the most complicated things as a pilot. I am not an expert, and that's why I rely on our friends at Phillips 66.
Phillips 66, as we all know, is one of the leading manufacturers of aviation lubricants. We supply their product. It's a great relationship. We've been together now for close to 25 years. Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I've been with the major oil companies since 1989 when they hired me out of college. And as an industry, we just keep growing and growing and growing. And our product line, iconic since the early 1900s, the biggest reason is the relationships that we've formed in this industry that have contributed to our growth.
It's great to have you here. Tony.
I'm Tony Negri. I'm the Director of Product Management and Technical Services. But the thing that differentiates aviation from any other segment of lubrication is the passion that accompanies this segment. We're passionate about the planes, the technology, the physics of flight, and they're excited to know everything that goes into the totality of that experience. And so we're happy to contribute incredible products to be able to enable these things to stay in the air and let people really experience the joys of flight.
When you have been in all the different airports that you've flown in and out of in your career, you always run into Phillips 66.
Always, yeah. I mean, it's the hallmark sign that you see. And like you said, the aviation community is really small and it's built on trust. I mean, you've got to have a lot of trust in yourself as a pilot and the machine that you're flying and all the things that are going to support you to do that safely. And I know for me with Phillips 66, it's been a great relationship. After I retired and I really doubled down with flying, continue to fly in air shows, but now flying small airplanes, flying with my family, safety is more important now than ever because I don't have that ejection seat.
So let's get back to the planes assembled behind us, okay? The Stearman, I know you're passionate about finding the Stearman. Touch on that real quickly.
Well, the thing for me, post-military, having a business that essentially we acquired the best airplanes that we could and put them to work, you get really good at knowing, a lemon versus a really great airplane. And one of the things, of course, is the pedigree, not only of the airframe, but the actual aircraft. So this aircraft behind me is the lowest time Stearman in the world. It now has 361 hours on it since 1944. From the factory over to California, it trained some military aviation cadets. Towards the end of 44, pilot training was starting to die down. So the airplane got brought to Hill Field, which is now Hill Air Force Base. But it had to be like the wing commander's airplane because it very rarely flew and it was kept in pristine condition. And then it was sold off like many Stearman to a crop dusting company. And we don't know if they knew what they had or if it was just dumb luck. But luckily for this airplane, the company went out of business when they got to that last row. And then they saw what they had, the lowest time Stearman in the world.
It's incredible. It's an incredible story.
Incredible plane.
What should be in that? What kind of oil should be in that aircraft? Because we don't know. So what should be in that aircraft?
Sure. So that should be our Phillips XC 2560 radial oil. Or if you're into straight weights, okay, we have the 120 also in the radial.
Why should that oil be in that aircraft?
So these engines, the radial design, you've got broader clearances than you've got in flat engines. And those broader clearances require a thicker viscosity, a heavier oil, so that 25W60 is ideally suited. There's an old joke about the radial engines about how to tell if they still have oil in them. The answer is they're still leaking. So we love radials, great customers.
Part of the Phillips 66 marketing strategy right there. World War II behind us, right?
That's
1943?
Right. 1943. So the progression would have been, if you were an aviation pilot, going through pilot training, you'd fly the Stearman for about 6 months, and then you'd go to the SNJ if you were in the Navy, or the T6, essentially the same airplane, and that would be your advanced trainer. So from what I understand, using the same oil between the two airplanes, which is pretty cool.
You are correct.
You are correct, yep.
All right, so I do know a little bit about some of this oil stuff, right?
We're doing pretty good. Okay. 1957?
1957. So new to our family airplane. So we needed a family wagon. So no matter what, the Cessna 182 just kept coming back to the top of the list for our family of four. So it's a great airplane. For me to use it to commute to some meetings and things like that is great, or just for an evening flight. So we've really enjoyed the airplane, and starting to do some traveling, doing the $100 hamburger and documenting some travel trips with friends on YouTube. So it's gonna be really fun.
Okay, so what's the oil we should be running in this plane?
So this is what some people refer to as a flat engine or horizontally opposed. And so the ideal product for this is either the XC20W50, the Victory AW20W50, or again, for those who preference a straight grade, we've got the Type A 100 AD.
Probably the number one question we get at the shows is what type of oil? And that's why we have all these options.
So I'm the 4th owner of this airplane, and you just go, well, what did the previous owner choose to use? And then you kind of feel like you're stuck. You know, I've had people tell me like, oh, you have a different oil in there, you got to stick with that. You know, you can't switch or whatever the case. So what is your
I'm
answer
really
to
glad
that?
you brought that up. That's a great question. And it's one of the most common ones that we face. That idea is firmly rooted amongst the aviation public in that once you've selected an oil, you can't switch, and it's just not true. The FAA mandates that all aviation piston engine oils must be compatible, right? So there's an old adage in engines, irrespective of the equipment that it's in, any oil is better than no oil, right? So if you were preferencing another brand and you land somewhere and they don't have that brand, but they do have Phillips 66, buy it, use it, select the right viscosity grade, and make sure that your equipment is completely protected. That's always the goal.
Everything that you own, is it fair to say, you're running Phillips in?
Yeah. You know, everything from this up to, you know, we've got 55-gallon drums. They've got a flight school here where every 100 hours they're changing, you know, their oil on 11 172s that we have in rotation at the flight school. So it's a really busy operation, and that's who we're using.
Thank goodness somebody mentioned Aviation Oil Outlet, because we not only supply cases across the country for Phillips, we also supply drums.
I look at your website and it's probably one of the best in the industry, if not the best. If the people out there have technical questions, your people are very knowledgeable about answering those questions directly on the phone or through email or whatever, and we're here to assist you.
One of the most common complaints that we get is if they don't have a good, reliable FBO near them that stocks the product, they want to buy it and they struggle to figure out how to do it. We always want to fill that need wherever it exists, and that's something your team excels at.
You can order your supply of oil from your phone or your pad or at your desk, so we make it very convenient. For Aviation Oil Outlet, I'm Rick Rose. I'd like to thank Paul Swanson and Tony Negri for being here today, and of course, John Baum.
Thanks. Safe flying, everyone.